There are at least 9 African countries that have placed limitations or complete bans on the use of plastic bags. Worldwide, there are about 35. In 2007, Kenya introduced a ban on plastics below 30 microns, what most people know as plastic carrier bags. However, this ban has taken 10 years to be put into effect. And now the Ministry of Environment says it will not back down on the implementation of the ban.
We've just been given two brackets. A is the carrier bag and B is a flat bag. There's no specification. Right now we assume it's entirely plastic.
This has been the problem, littering that has been almost impossible to contain, and severe environmental degradation considering that these plastics are non-biodegradable. But then there's the other side of the argument. In Kenya, the industry employs about 20,000 people. Bipin Vora, a paper bag manufacturer, says he has the solution for the packaging, and the ban is more than welcome. He is one of 5 paper bag manufacturers in Kenya and can't wait to see increased demand once the ban takes effect.
For more reasons than one, it's the best thing that's happened to the country and us. Like I said, we've been operating in Kenya and in this field for the last 20 years. And in the 20 years, my factory has never operated above 30% of its capacity.
Paper bag production only accounts for about 10% of the industry. Some of Vora's machines still lay idle. He says even a week after the announcement that the ban will be enforced, he has not had any calls for paper bag orders. Vora is cautious, given that there has not been any talk of what needs to be done to ease the effects of the ban.
Make the field level. If somebody is importing a bag and is paying a 25% duty, and I am importing paper and trying to convert that into bags, and I'm paying a 25% duty on that, it doesn't make sense.
Stakeholders in the plastic industry have suggested Kenya take the route South Africa took, with the introduction of a levy that could generate about $8 million annually, that can then be channeled to developing recycling plants.
What we'll do is the funds will be brought to a table for a PPP, a public-private partnership, and we'll decide now where it needs to be allocated, where it's failing.
In Kenya, recycling is not done on a large scale, and most of the waste, even segregated waste, ends up in the same landfills. Plastics industry gives the Kenyan government about $50 million in revenue per annum. But going by the planned ban, the government would rather earn that money elsewhere. Alexandria, Majalla, CGTN, Nairobi, Kenya.
Right then, so let's dig deep into the environmental arguments for this particular ban. Robert Irina is an enforcement officer from Kenya's National Environment Management Authority. He's with me in studio right now. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
So let's pedal back a bit, because this isn't the first time we've tried to deal with this plastic waste problem. 2007, there was a proposal to ban plastics thinner than 0.03 millimeters and a 120% tax. 2011, a couple of years later, there was another proposal, ban anything that's thinner than 0.06 millimeters. Now we're here with a complete ban. But looking back, these are the proposals. Why didn't they solve the plastic waste problem?
First of all, those ban that we had 2007 and 2011 was based on gauge. And it was very difficult to enforce on the gauge because you needed some equipment to measure the thickness of plastic so that to detect any non-compliance. And at the same time, when we introduced that ban in 2007, the plan was that there will be a green levy that was supposed to ensure recycling of the plastics. But that green levy was, of course, converted to excess duty, and therefore it didn't succeed. Yeah.
Right. So let's move forward now, because we've got about 150 odd plastic manufacturers, plastic packaging manufacturers in the country, with about 65,000 jobs between them. Based on site surveys, feedback you're getting from these guys, what's the level of compliance that we should expect come Monday?
What we are getting from the ground is very good. Most of the companies are not in argument whether they want to comply or not. They are showing they want to comply. Only that they were raising issues on one particular stream of plastic that is banned. That's the
ones,
flat
the
bag.
Ones for
the flat bag.
Is it the flat bag? But what about industrial packaging as well? Because that was also an issue.
The industrial packaging is not affected. The industrial primary packaging is not affected with this ban. So we have got two categories that are banned. That is the carrier bags, which are the secondary packaging, mostly used in the supermarkets and other shops. Then the other category which is banned is the flat bags, where the industrial packaging falls, but it's not entirely all the flat bags that are banned. The ones which are banned are the flimsy plastics that are found where in markets where people are given maybe vegetable fruits.
Yeah.
Those are the ones which are banned.
And since those are the same guys who form the bulk of Kenyan retail, so what's the alternatives now? Do they all have to switch over to paper packaging, for lack of a better word?
There are so many alternatives available right now. Actually, when I was coming here, I met about more than 100 people who are producing alternatives. And they range from sisal baskets, they range from textile clothing bags. And then now we have got the other kind of plastics which we call the woven and woven. This is the, if you know, the sack-like bags and the cloth-like bags. Those are also available as alternatives for this kind of business.
Let's get back to the enforcement problem that you mentioned a little earlier. So earlier on you said one of the reasons why the 2007 and 2011 efforts basically backfired is because there was a lack of ability, the equipment and manpower, to enforce those two bans. But what's different this time round? I mean, yes, it's an outright ban on plastics, but do you have the manpower to actually enforce it and fine people and actually show guys that, look, if you break the law, this is what we'll do to you?
Yeah, this one is very easy because the ban is in total, in that category that has been banned. And at the same time, we are targeting the manufacturers, the importers, and the users. And with that, the ban is going to be very easy because once the production stops and the importation stops, then we don't expect even the individual users will be accessible to these kind of bags. So the ban this time around is going to succeed. In terms of capacity, yes, we are prepared enough, and you are here to see us on the field from next week. We have the county governments who are also partners in this ban. So we have enough enforcement officers on the ground to enforce the ban.
Right. Moving forward, though, once after August 28th, because the ban will come in force from that point onwards, we'll still have a ton of plastic waste pretty much all over the place. I mean, there's a river I commute past when I come to work, and it's chock full of plastic waste every day. So what happens with that? Because we don't have a widespread recycling culture in here. We don't have a levy in place to encourage recycling. How do we deal with that problem?
So this ban is wider. It's going to make us achieve a wider objective in terms of even recycling, because what we are now putting in place for even industrial packaging. Remember that after the carrier bags are out of the market, we still have industrial packaging bags that are going to be released to the environment on daily basis. And what we are putting in place is kind of a system where these bags, industrial bags, are going to be labeled by the manufacturers or the industries that are packaging for traceability purposes. And the mechanisms we are going to put in place is that these industries, the plastic sector, needs to come together and have a recycling arrangement, whether probably they will themselves have a recycling plant or they will contribute to recycling. And that's what we are calling a take-back system or producer responsibility.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there. We're running out of time. But Mr. Orina, thank you for your time this evening.
Welcome.
Appreciate it.